Okay, thanks, Jonathan, and good evening. Repeating for the recording. My name's Irene Hassan. I'm the pastor of Kailua Christian Church, and I use AI every day. So I'm going to share with you how I use it in a way that might be constructive to you. Now, because I'm the only female of the three presenters, of course, they asked me to go first and deal with the problem of plagiarism. No, I'm just kidding. I said that was fine, that I would do it. But so I know that that's an important thing that we're all thinking of is how is the ethical use of this, and is it accurate? Can we use it? So I'm going to show you how to use it, and also being aware of the plagiarism issues. So I'm just going to pull up a share screen here. You think? Well, bam. Can everyone see that? Okay. Super. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay, so what you are currently looking at is one form of AI. It is probably the most popular and common form of AI. This is a program called ChatGPT. So the website, if you wanted to get to it, is right up there in the bar. You see chatgpt.com. And right now it is logged in to me. So I am logged in under my email address, my personal email address. And it's got all of my information under that. It knows who I am. So like it will recognize me because I use it every day. So I'm just going to say, Chat GPT, who am I? And I think it will probably tell me who I am because it knows. You're Irene Hassan, a seasoned leader with deep experience. So nice. In refugee support, nonprofit development, faith-based community work. You're a pastor in Hawaii where you spent 15 years helping churches. Which is probably a little bit of flattery, but that's a nice thing, is that ChatGPT flatters you. And it knows what I'm doing. So I have programmed it to know who I am. If you were to use ChatGPT, it would not tell you all those things because it's telling me about me, and it would also have to learn you. Now, the one ethical issue there is that, is it eating my information and feeding it somewhere else? Absolutely it is. So is Facebook, so is Instagram, so is LinkedIn, so is your iPhone if you have one. That is just the way of the internet. And as just a small-time pastor in Hawaii, I don't know how to deal with the ethical issue of the internet in general, taking your information, feeding it to the whole world. That's just the way it is, and it's someone else's problem to deal with other than mine, in my opinion. But if you have questions about that, you're welcome to ask. So yes, it is taking my data and feeding it elsewhere. Anyway,
Irene,
yes.
just for your information, we are not seeing your whole screen. We are just seeing the top of it.
I wonder why it's doing that. Well, you're gonna have to let me not go first then, so I can troubleshoot. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Irene. Ben, let's jump to you, please.
All right. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and God spoke. God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God saw that it was good. We in this age are able to speak words or type words into this little chat box. And the question before us is it any good? And that's a really big question. How will we use this form of artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is being used in a number of different ways already on your phones and devices. It's why it can find dogs in your Photos app, because it's been trained artificial intelligence to find dogs. What we're talking about are these large language models that can produce some kind of content, and with that comes what they call AI slop, a lot of junk out there. So what ways can we and should we be using AI? And so I'm going to show you a few ways that I use it, that I try to prevent from creating AI slop in my ministry and in my work. And one of those ways that I try to do that is by making sure that I'm the active contributor, right? I can put into this chat box right here, write a sermon on John 5:1-9, which is the alternative text for this Sunday, the alternative gospel text, and it will write me a sermon. I don't know that it's going to be any good. Could be plagiarizing. Irene probably would have talked a little bit about that. I haven't done any work, right? Now, I would think we would all agree this is probably not an ethical use of AI for a pastor to do this. Just as it would be for a pastor to go onto a website and find a sermon from somebody else and present it as their own without attribution. So for me, there's always something about that I am an active participant in the process. I'm always a part of it. And I find that the more I contribute the more work that I do on the front end and at the tail end of this process, the better results I get. I see AI as a partner, as a conversation partner, one to provoke me, to continue to ask me questions, and I set it up in ways that I can do that. So I'm going to show you a few ways. Some are more task-oriented. Others are more kind of, let me kind of tease out some things oriented. So I'll go through some of these. So I'm the pastor, let's say I'm the pastor at Third United Church of Christ, and we are in need of a council secretary. We have, council board members are hard to find, and we have not been able to find somebody to serve as the secretary. And one of the, apart from the need for having somebody in a position of leadership to help lead and guide and direct the path of the congregation as a leader, there's also a function that they serve, and that's to take minutes at the meetings. And nobody likes to take minutes at the meetings. It's always a slog. So I'm going to use AI. And so what I'm going to do is, with the permission of the board, we recorded the transcript. All right, so we recorded our meeting. Now, my phone can take that recording and create a text transcript of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload that transcript into ChatGPT. You can see that we have our November 4th board meeting transcript right there. I could open that up and you'd see a bunch of text of all the things that we're talking about. There's nothing private in there. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to upload the agenda. If I opened that up, it would just be a standard agenda, what we're talking about in the order of things. So I'm going to now ask ChatGPT, please create a set of minutes based on the transcript. Keep it in the order of the agenda. All right, so let's see so I'm going to say go. It's going to think, it's going to look at those documents, and it's going to tabulate it. Oh, that was pretty quick. And so here I have the order, my agenda, which are the big bullets. And I can go through and you can see all the things that we've talked about. Our old business, what we discussed, our new business, the things that we're talking about, the holidays, kind of all the plans that were in there, when we're going to set our annual meeting, and when we adjourned. And in just a matter of seconds, I have a pretty good start on a set of minutes. That could then, now, people say, how accurate is it? I'd need to be at that meeting to know if that's accurate, right? Especially if you get into numbers. This meeting, we didn't have any financial reports presented. So I'd want to go back and double check those things. I'd want to read through this and say, is that accurate to the conversation that I recall us having? And I could, and then fill in, some of the things that are missing, if there's things that it didn't pick up, but it did as I'm doing a quick glance, it did a pretty good job. So that's, a way that it can take a task that nobody really likes, that I can check because I was present at the meeting and others were present at the meeting. And I'm giving it take this information, summarize it, and put it into this format. And there I have my church meeting. minutes. I can then copy this, export it, and send it out to everybody. Here's the minutes that ChatGPT put together based on our transcript. Anything stand out, right? You're going to do the regular checks and balances, which is important to do with ChatGPT. The other thing I have to do is I've been asked to create a set of newsletters and over the coming year for our monthly newsletter, and I need to come up with some ideas. But I'm kind of, I don't know, I got to get something down, but I'm kind of stuck. I've kind of gone through all the regular ones that I've done. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT for some ideas. All right, so I'm going to, let's see. I have a little prompt that I put in there. If I can find, there it is. I just copy this. There we go. I'm going to tell it a little bit about myself. It might know this already, but the more I put into it. So I'm the pastor at a small congregation on the island of Lanai. It serves primarily a Micronesian community. I need to develop a series of newsletter articles that might be relevant to this community and our ministry together. The majority of the ministry is with youth and young people. That's accurate for my setting. Can you give me a suggestion of 3 different series of newsletter articles to inspire my thinking? So let's see what it gives me. It's very polite. Certainly, Pastor Ben. Here are some ideas. And Roots and Wings, Faith, Culture, and the Next Generation. Celebrate and explore the ways Micronesian heritage and Christian faith shape the identity of young people today. Oh, that sounds pretty inspiring. And it's, it says stories from home, what my grandparents taught me about God, having young people do interviews with the elders and sharing that could be fascinating, right? Number 2 would be Sacred Steps, following Jesus on our island, reflections on discipleship grounded in everyday experiences of island life, could be fascinating, and Voices of Hope, youth speak their faith. Youth-led column that features short testimonies, poems, artwork, and prayers from young people. Now, these are great ideas, like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Oh, and maybe one of those really speaks to you. And then what I can do is I can say, you know what, number 1 is really interesting to me. Let's go with that. And I can dig in. I can offer some more thoughts. I can have more conversation with it and help tease out these things more deeply. But it can give me some high-level ideas and places to start that are rooted, and I'm kind of pointing it in a direction. I don't necessarily take it at face value. I'm always in conversation with this. I wouldn't just copy this and paste it into a newsletter, but it would inspire and start my conversation. And the things I'm thinking about, now I have a set of newsletters that I'm thinking, oh, how am I shaping content? How am I shaping articles that might inspire and lead the congregation into deeper discipleship and understanding of their identity as children of God in this specific place? Let's see. Let's find something else that we can do with it. All right. Let's see. I am going to, here's a sermon that, the transcript of a sermon that I wrote 12 years ago, right? 12 years ago or so, for this coming Sunday based on John 14, the main text. So I've written this manuscript. I have it all set. Let's say I'm going to preach that this Sunday, or I've already preached it. But I want that content to continue to reach out to the congregation. I want to continue to have words that might speak. So I'm going to say, use this sermon manuscript to create a daily social media post on our church's Facebook account, our Facebook page. They should be inspiring. I would say they should include inspiration, if I could type, inspiration, motivation, and calls to action. Let's see what it comes up with. So it's using the content that I've already created. It's using my words, my themes that I've put together in this sermon, and it's creating some content and things that I can utilize throughout the week to extend the ministry, to extend the sermon that's already been preached or will be preached, right? Christ is risen, and so is peace. We keep proclaiming Christ is risen, not just because we should, but because we need to. In a world filled with noise, Jesus offers a peace that isn't quiet. It's the presence of healing, justice, and home. And the call to action is speak Christ is risen aloud. Remind yourself peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of Christ. And that's a theme that's in the sermon transcript, the sermon manuscript that I uploaded. And it goes on from there. So again, these are things that I'm giving it content that I have access to, that I have permission to use, and telling it to do something with it in a very specific way that I can reuse and repurpose otherwise. So let's do one more idea here. Let's pretend I have a group of seniors who get together for a weekly Bible study. And they have such deep wisdom and faith and insights into the gospel texts that I think it needs to be shared. But they're kind of hesitant to get up and stand in front of people and talk. Nobody kind of wants to volunteer, but they kind of like the idea of their ideas being shared. So let's pretend I sat down with Bible study for them and I asked if I could record it. I have a kind of a mock transcript of that Bible study. And I put that together, and I'm going to say, what themes are present in the study, and give me 3 ways that I could utilize them in the Sunday Adult Forum. So it's going to read that. It's going to look for that information. And it's going to pull out quotes. It's going to pull out information. It's going to pull out the themes that it sees in that content, in that thing. Again, I'm asking for permission. This is, right? I'm kind of being transparent about how this information is being used and where it will be used. And then it's putting together some ideas on what that might look like. Again, this is not the end, right? It begins with human discernment, human conversation, human engagement. We kind of ask ChatGPT or whatever LLM for a little input to kind of spur some ideas. Maybe it pulls out things that we don't see, or it says it more succinctly, and then it comes back to us, right? And then I'm going to use this to finalize and hone and shape something. I'm not going to get up and say, well, the key themes are being seen and known. Jesus sees him. There's transform, right? That's not quite what we're going for, right? That's not authentic, which is what we want in the use of technology. Technology is an extension of ourselves and should be authentic and transparent and ethical in its use. And so we use this as a tool to bounce back ideas. Now, if I weren't doing just a 15, 20-minute presentation, of which I have no idea how far along I am, I would go into one of these and I'd have more conversation. I'd say, all right, let's tease this out a little bit more. Let's explore this. And I'm going to put more input into it. Again, the more I find, what I find is the more I put in, the better results I get back. Otherwise, I kind of get really generic AI junk that there's plenty of it. Plenty of that on the internet. We can find that really easily. And so we don't need to be contributing to that more and more, right? But we can use this as a tool to help inspire us and to jumpstart some processes as we're kind of developing material for our ministries. those are some of the high level, some of the things I wanted to show you today. Again, I'm not sure how long I've been talking, but are there any questions? I see.
Ben, we have one in the chat.
Yeah. All right. Please tell us more about how to formulate prompts. So as Irene kind of alluded to earlier, the more you use this, the more it'll know about you. You can tell it what you want. So let's say, so I can tell it a little bit about my theological perspectives, about who I am, about my context, and who I'm serving and what I'm wanting out of that. I'm also can use my prompts to tell ChatGPT what I want from it. So this is something I'm constantly wrestling with these LLMs with, is that they want to be really, really helpful. And they want to create things for me when I don't want it to, right? And so I have to tell it, don't write anything. I have to tell it, I want you to be a conversation partner. I want you to ask me questions to draw something out of me, and not just tell me what you think. And I might ask, can you repeat that back to me? What did you hear? How might you say what I just told you in other words? How might you expand on that? But it's always kind of trying to keep it centered. And that's what I do, is try to keep it rooted in my own work, and not something else. LLM is large language model. Basically how these ChatGPT and Google Gemini and Grok work is that they are trained on human language, right? And so, and that's why they take tons and tons of data that were available on the internet, and kind of are trained on that. And so they are basically, they're not discerning anything. They're not thinking. They don't have a theological perspective. They are just taking what I'm telling it and giving and predicting what the next word should be. And so there's a bit of mathematical mystery in that. And that's why if I can direct it more and more, there's a higher probability I'm going to get a good result for what I'm looking for, as opposed to, the less I give it, the probability that it's going to predict the next word or set of words accurately is going to be lower. So the more I can put into it, the better results you will get. But again, it is not thinking in the way that we think thinking is, and choosing this word versus that word. It's just doing kind of some kind of mathematical tabulation to predict what it most thinks the most likely next word is. And sometimes it does really well, and it does with a high level of confidence, and sometimes it does not do well. And that's why you can't take this blindly. There was a report today that the Chicago Sun-Times put out this summer reading list, and books on the reading list were not real, right? And so a journalist said, hey, give me the 10 books to put on a summer reading list, and it hallucinated, that's what those are called, hallucinated actual books and authors, and they don't exist, or attributed to the wrong person. And so it does take someone to look at that information and say, is this accurate? Do I have a level of insight to be able to say, that doesn't seem right, I'm going to check that out some more and find ways to go back at it, or say, no, that's not what I was going for at all, let's do something else, and then give it that direction on where you want it to go. Is there a difference in the different AI? ChatGPT is just one of many AI. I have a simple program Copilot. Yeah, I think there's kind of a race right now. Depending on who you talk to, some will say some are better for different purposes, whether that's coding or research or analytics and things like that. For what I don't know that there's a significant difference in what's out there right now for kind of the purposes that we're about. One last thing I want to show you that can be helpful is that I think could be kind of interesting is you can create your own what's called GPT, which is basically a built-in set of instructions into a chatbot so that it knows kind of what you want. And I'm just beginning to play with this and explore it. But I've created, so what I'm going to do, let's see. Here, I'm going to say my GPTs, and I'm going to create a GPT. And here I can give it a list of instructions. Let's say I want to use this as my sermon companion, someone to bounce ideas with. But there's a certain process that I want it to go through. The process is 4 questions for preaching. And I'm going to say, I want you to guide me through 4 questions as I develop my Sunday sermon. They are, 1, what does God want for us? What keeps that from happening? What has God done in Christ to make God's intention a reality? What difference does that make in our lives? All right, so these are the 4 questions that I want to shape my sermons. Okay, so it's updating. Now, I could go in and I could say, and I do this from, with perspective or the theological bent of Jürgen Moltmann or Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Jonathan Roach, right? I could go in and lift up some voices and say, these are kind of, the ways I think and the way I want you to draw that out. I could say, I could tell it, I am tell it my context. I could tell it I'm theologically progressive. I'm open and affirming, this, that, and the other thing about it, and make sure that it knows that about me. And make sure I don't want you to create a sermon for me. I want you to invite me into deeper reflection on the questions in text. Okay. So then I can go through and I can say, all right, let's look at John 5, 1 through 9. And here you can see it's giving me a little background. It's kind of reiterating the text. And now ideally I do a little bit of, thank you, Irene. Ideally, I'd be doing some reflection ahead of time and having some more ideas go into this before I get anything back, before I begin this process, right? So I'm already going in with something that I'm carrying that this can help shape and help me dig deeper into. I'm at time. I've probably gone over time. So thank you for your patience, and I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Ben. Irene, if you're ready for us, let us jump back to you.
Ben, do you mind doing me a favor and pulling up your share screen again, and I'll just dictate what you write?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So I had started out by saying, and I'm really glad you went first because a lot of what you said is what I was planning on saying. So I just won't repeat it. Not that I can show you my content anyways, it won't let me. So I had started out by talking about how ChatGPT knows me, which Ben backed up, is that you can make it know you and your theological preferences, who you are, your background, who your audience is, etc., by telling it, right? So for the sake of plagiarism and privacy, you don't ever want to tell it something about your parishioners. You can talk to it and be like, wow, I'm having a really hard time with this person. Like, they will not stop getting on my case about the audio quality in the church. Like, they, whatever complaint your parishioner has or whatever it is. And, you can technically talk to ChatGPT and use it as a sort of therapist and be like, what do I do about this parishioner who's being a difficult person? And it'll talk to you about it according to what the internet tells it that that is the best practice for working with that person. So you could do that anonymously. I don't ever use ChatGPT for therapy. I know a number of teenagers who do that sometimes, but you don't ever want to give it people's names or particular circumstances, because it will remember it and it will give it that information to other people. So that's one note about plagiarism. So I wanted to bring up something that came up in a Bible study that I do for my church, in which I go to the old folks' home and do this with our kapuna. And so we are doing the book of Daniel, and I am historical critical trained, as most mainline pastors are. And so I started out by saying Daniel is probably a parable, and it was probably actually written at a different time than it says it is, blah, blah. And I got gasps, right? What are you saying, Pastor? They're like, oh no. Well, that is the way that I was taught, and most scholars think that's probably true. And they said, we want a second opinion. I was like, okay, well, I can't go back to seminary for 3 more years to get a second opinion, but I can ask ChatGPT. So that's exactly what I did. So Ben, will you type into ChatGPT? Show me the difference between Daniel from a historical critical perspective and Daniel from a traditional conservative perspective, side by side. Okay, go. So this is exactly what it gave me. So it gave me all this information because I don't have the information on the traditional conservative perspective. It was not taught to me in seminary. So I went and looked at the difference between what I was taught and what perhaps someone from a more conservative seminary that the people in my Bible study wanted to hear about were taught. So it gives you all this different information. And again, Ben was talking about how you can't always get perfectly accurate information off ChatGPT. You have to use your big kid brain, your big human brain, to actually figure it out. So in ChatGPT, it usually comes with, yeah. Okay, so it gives you the different ways that people believe. And then can you ask it, it would work better on my ChatGPT because it has all this information saved. So can you ask it, give me the sources for this information? Okay, so there's the list of annotated sources that it used to find this information. The one that I have actually gave it left and right column saying this comes from the historical critical perspective and this comes from the traditional conservative, because it knows me better and that I would ask questions like this. My church is very purple, right? In which we have people that want the conservative perspective and also want the historical critical perspective. So what you can do is you can go and use your own detective self to look up these sources and say, do I know any of these authors? And you can double check it using your own resources. Maybe you have some of them on your bookshelf. Maybe you have some sort of library that you use in which you can double check and read them yourself to make sure that all this information is accurate, that you can cross-reference in ChatGPT. So that's exactly what I did, is I looked at all these authors and I read about their backgrounds and who they are and why they think what they think. And then if you scroll back up, and then I double checked it with all this information it told me about the two different competing ways that people believe that Daniel was written and why. And then I double checked to make sure that information was accurate, and where it wasn't accurate, which it all was, it was accurate according to the scholarly resources. And so I went and I took that to the folks and I said, so here's the authors that will tell you differently than what I've explained to you. And here's the breakdown of what they have to say. So that saved me a lot of time, because if I would have been asked that question by this Bible study before the age of ChatGPT, I would have had to, before that I still use, different libraries like JSTOR. And I would have had to go and look all through these different catalogs for Daniel, and then historical critical perspective on Daniel or traditional conservative perspective on Daniel. And it would have taken me a lot more time. This can find all that information for me and break it down, and then I can just double check it. So again, that comes back to plagiarism and ethical use, in which you have to use your own brain, your human brain, to make sure that it is giving you accurate information by asking it questions. How did you find the source? Then double check using your old school sources like your bookshelf to make sure that you use that source correctly. So that is one way that I use ChatGPT frequently. And I use ChatGPT every day. So when it comes to sermon writing, gosh, I wish I could show you one of my the sermon that I had pulled up. But you know, Ben showed you his sermon and how he uses it to ask questions. But you can't, so you can ask it to write a whole sermon for you, and like Ben said, it wants to write a whole sermon for you. So what I usually ask it is, Ben, do you have a sermon that you're comfortable with to share, to poke in there? You do. Thank you. So you can, so what he's doing is, you see that little plus on the bottom left part of the screen? He did this kind of fast, so I'm gonna break down. He presses that plus, and then it's going to take him to his Google Drive or his files on his computer, and he presses that, and right, is that how you do it, or do you do it a different way to get your sermons or to get your documents? That's how I use it to get my documents. You know, how did you?
No, I just drag up in the files
Use drag in the
from my
files?
desktop, but yeah, I could totally just, add photos. And then I'm gonna go to my desktop, and I have so I have this sermon here. This is the one I kind of used earlier. So this is one from a while ago. I'll just upload that.
Okay, great. Thank you. So he does it probably a simpler way in which he drags it. The way that I do it, which is not as simple, is to go on that plus button, and it will connect to my drive or my files, and I go find the file that I want that's either in my drive or on my computer or on my computer desktop, and I put it in there. And then you can ask the question. A question that I ask frequently is this sermon logical and consistent? That's something that I ask frequently. Like, did I go down a rabbit hole? So can you ask it that? And it's usually really nice to you. It's like, it's so good. You are the best pastor ever. It did that same thing to him. And it gives you all the reasons why it's good. So if you scroll down, it'll tell you all the reasons why it's good, and then it'll tell you the reasons why it's bad. And then you can look at it, and it will tell you what it thinks that you should change about your sermon. And you can either do that or not. Ben has made his a lot less plagiary than mine looks. I don't know how you accomplish that. Might be because you have plus and I have basic. To answer your question, Lauren, I have basic, he has plus. So what it usually tries to do is try to fix my sentences. So it'll say, instead of saying it this way, how about you say it this way? And I can't use its sentence. That is plagiarism. I did not write that. So the way that he has it set up with plus is a lot better, in which it'll be like, it didn't give him a new sentence. It just gave him syntax and ways that he can change it. So that's not plagiarism. That's an editor looking at it and saying, here's ways that you can edit it. Now, if it gives you full new sentences, which on mine, it wants to, you can't use them. You just have to take basically what it's trying to say, and use your own words to reconstruct it if you want to. So that's another thing. Then the third thing that I want to talk about, was admin stuff. So I had an email pulled up in which I have these interns coming to live at my church this summer, and I asked them, what snacks do you want stocked in the fridge when you get here? They get here next week. And so they all sent me back their snacks. I want Takis. I want granola bars. I'm allergic to shellfish. Can you make sure that there's no blah, blah, blah here? I'm allergic to gluten. Can you separate my stuff into this? So what I was going to do was I was going to ask ChatGPT to create an Excel spreadsheet for me of the different snacks that each intern wanted and their allergies and preferences for those snacks, so that it was able to divide up which intern wanted what and from what store and what allergies they had. And within seconds, just from my email, just by copying the information from my email and pasting it in there, it creates something that says Abigail is gluten-free and her preferred snacks are this, and so forth. And it will create a whole spreadsheet. So anytime you have an email that has too much information on it and you want to turn it into an admin document so it's more readable, you can just plug the email text in there and it will create an Excel spreadsheet for you. That's not plagiarism. That's just another way that I use it to make my life a little easier. Trying to think of other plagiarism things. Don't put people's personal information in there. That's not yours ever. And don't use its sentences that it tries to give you. And Ben showed earlier, you can stop it. Like if it tries to rewrite your sermon, you say, stop, I don't want my sermon rewritten. I want you to be a conversation partner with me and be like, oh, sorry about that. And it'll try again. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 tries, but Ben pointed out when we were talking about this before that this is the dumbest version of ChatGPT that will ever exist. AI is only going to get smarter from here, and someday it'll be a lot more efficient, and you won't have to stop it multiple times. Be like, you're not doing it. Hey, you're not doing it. Very soon it'll be more smart. And that's really all that I had. Any questions? Safe. Is it safe to use ChatGPT is the question. I mean, it's just as safe as any other internet platform out there. I mean, everything on the internet that you put in at all, your kids and your grandkids' photos on Instagram, or your professional information on LinkedIn, anything you put into the internet at all, the internet's going to take and use against you. That's just the way it's always been, and I don't know if that's ever going to change. So it's just as safe as any other platform. Anything else before we move on to Rennie? Okay, thank you for your time. Oh, yep, thank you for your time. And yeah, sorry that I could not get my Chrome to work.
I can't tell if everyone here is just there's more than just pastors here, right? There's other folks that are in the chat here. So let's see. I actually teach how to use AI. So I can say that, I'm just using this with ChatGPT right now, but what I did was I also work with Pam. And what I did was they have an old brochure, and I wanted to update the brochure, or actually didn't update the brochure. I just put the brochure into ChatGPT, and I said I wanted to update it, which it did. And then I said, can you create a graphic to illustrate it? And this is what it came up with. Can you see it? It just took the information in the brochure and I summarized it with images with people. And one of the things that I found in using the internet, especially because I work with a lot of children sometimes, and with my Game Kids program, is that, some parents don't want their kids on the internet. Yeah, they don't want their images. So sometimes you can actually create a fake person. Well, these are just people who I generated through that, through the app. So if you're putting together flyers or things, you can ask ChatGPT to create these kind of things for you, and it's comes together really well. Image created. I just said, can you create another version? And so that's one of the ways that I've used ChatGPT. And let's see. Oh, something happened here now. I actually asked ChatGPT. I took the conference Aha Paina theme, and I asked it to make make a lyric for me out of the concept of the scripture that it had, built on a firm foundation. And I wish I could show it to you. And let's see, I'm trying to get it to come up here. So what I did was I created a song. Let me see if it just plays. No, it's not. Okay.
Rennie, you got it to write a song, like with the notes and everything?
I got it to write the lyrics.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I can put the notes in. I know there's many different apps that can be used for something like that. And okay, now it should be working now. Let's see. Built on a firm foundation, and then I had it say the Hawaiian words. Okay, so now here's the magic. Watch.
When the winds blow, when the rains fall down, we won't be shaken, we will stand our ground. Not on the sand that slips away, but on the rock that stays. Kukulu ia ke kahua kupa'a. Jesus is our hope, our strength, our guide.
So that's one of many tunes I can create with the AI. I can make it faster, I can make it slower, I can change all the different styles of music. I can, let's see, let me share the screen again. I have all the different styles here. I could tell it to do any of these, you can hear what it sounds like. So I'm just showing you the fun parts that we can do. I can do simple, I can put my own lyrics in, or I can have it create lyrics for me. I can do it based on the style of any artist. And so where the fun part comes in is if I create theme songs or songs, then you can make music videos or make things for the church. So I've done that with my church when we had a Holy Humor Sunday. I had to create a song based on our church and our people laughing and telling jokes and stories. And then I took the song that it created and then I just sync slides and video to it. And that was a lot of fun. So, that's I have to say that there's many different AI tools. ChatGPT is only one of many. And every day it keeps getting more. And some of them are private. You have to pay more for when I say private. In other words, you tell it whatever you put into it, it will not share or use it anybody else. There's also something called Google Notebook that's out now that does a lot of research and AI things, and it will not share the information with anyone else. So how do you give credit for this? Well, it depends on how you use it. Like if I'm going to sell it or do something, then I probably would say you can, it was created with AI or created with Suno. Suno's one of the, and actually that program that I showed you actually creates music videos for you. And when it creates it, it actually will say created with Suno. So, but again, it depends on, but there are other songwriting tools that you own the copyright and you can create it on your own as well. So it depends on which one you use. I use AI mostly to, I can take my sermon and I say, can you make a study guide with this, right? This is what I want you to focus on, and it'll kind of do that kind of things. But what I find it the most useful for me a lot of times is just the creative side. And I just showed you the songs. You can do pictures, you can do video, you can do comic books. And in the hands of our young people with I think it's Adobe Animate now, they can make their own cartoons, and you can take your church members and make a lot of fun stuff together. Anybody else? Oh, so James asked, does it write in Olelo? It does. And there's actually several programs where you can check the Hawaiian in it over and over to make sure that it's accurate. But usually when I do something in Olelo, I do have someone who's really who knows Olelo really well to go over the material and make sure that it's the translation is what it really means to say. If you're using the Bible, pretty much the Bible is already the Olelo. And so whether you create music out of it, or it's just going to take the words. And the pronunciation is pretty accurate now. It's getting better and better. I also have tools where I can take the voices off. I can actually take the voices off and make a soundtrack. So if I create a song, or if I have a song that I want somebody to sing, I'll create the song and then take the voice off and then just give them the soundtrack, and they practice that. So when they sing it live in church, it's the person really singing with the soundtrack. So there's thousands of songs and genres that you can use in that way. And you can actually create mini musicals for your VBS or whatever that customizing your things for yourselves. Any questions?
I just
So-
wanted to quickly point out that Rennie's showing you different ways other than ChatGPT, which is awesome. Rennie actually introduced me to all this stuff. He's amazing. But one way that I use not ChatGPT that has nothing to do with ministry is my daughter and I use my iPhone. And if you open your iPhone camera and you click a photo of a plant or an animal, like you see a bird or a plant, and you take a photo of it, and then you'll find a little button at the bottom of the screen that says, AI will tell you what this is. And then you press AI, tell me what this is. And it'll tell you that this is a plumeria tree, or this is a robin or a minor bird or something like that. So anyway, I just wanted to put an addendum in there that AI isn't just ChatGPT.
Yeah, I actually use Perplexity much more often. Perplexity is more for academic and research people, but whenever you put a question in there, it'll bring up a lot of things, but it gives you the source of where it's coming from. And it also will tell you that I do a lot of fact checking that way when I see people do, because ChatGPT is actually, when you use it, the data set that it's using is about 6 months ago. It's not like today. But if you use Perplexity, it's right now. So if you ask, how did the House vote on something, it will actually bring up all the names of how they voted and everything else. And it's up to the date quite well. And it also gives you the reference as to where it's coming from. Perplexity. And a lot of this is on your cell phone. You can actually put it on your cell phone, even the ChatGPT. And if you use it, it will actually show up on your desktop as well as on your cell phone.
So one question I have for all three panelists: what have been some ethical quandaries that you have hit in your use with AI?
For me, sermon writing, like I said, I ask it, I'm like, is this concise? Is this inspirational? And if I'm feeling really tired and my sermon has not gone very well that week, and AI comes out with a banger sentence to give me instead of what I wrote, I'm like, I want to use that, but I know that I can't, because that is using someone else's words that it found on the internet. So that's the ethical quandary that it comes up to me most often, is like, oh, AI is a better writer than me. Why can't I just use it?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, Irene, where I think the temptation is to use AI in these resources as a time saver. Is, in terms of content in terms of, like, especially for those of us who are called to proclamation ministry, to kind of say, I'm gonna offload this work to someone or something else. It's Saturday night, I'm tired or whatever it is, and I'm still kind of spinning my wheels. It's easy to lean into it more than one probably should. And I think that's, the ethical duty of the one who's called to that role and that position, to kind of say, I know this is available to me. I know that there are sermons that I can download on the internet out there, right? I can listen to, Irene's sermon, from last week, and I could just pull that down and use that, because she, there are ways that I can do that. But you have to kind of have a strong ethical foundation, and also, kind of being aware. It doesn't cut the work short. You still have to struggle through the work, especially for that's how I talk about sometimes writing a sermon. You gotta struggle through it, and you'll come up to a bunch of roadblocks, and you can't take the easy way out.
Some of the programs now have filters on it, but sometimes when you ask it to create like an image or something, it may pull up something that's inappropriate. And so, I usually delete it right away because I don't want it to think I created it or something. So, but most of them now have filters, so it won't create certain images if you use certain words. Hate. Like if you say bear, the word BARE, a lot of times it will not create anything that's close to nakedness or whatever. So sometimes when you say, "Oh, I want a hula dancer barefoot on stage," it won't create it. But some AIs will use that filter.
That's a good point. And it makes me think of my daughter, is that she downloaded a little AI app on her phone. Well, I downloaded it for her, in which she could turn herself into anime, right? She could take a picture of herself and it would turn her into anime. And she started being obsessed with it, where she was like, I like the way I look as anime more. And I think a lot of our kids and our grandkids feel that way, is that they can put a filter on themselves, like, look how beautiful I could be, and they don't see themselves as beautiful as the person they are in real life. And so I made my daughter, I had a conversation with her and made her delete it, because I was like, you are more beautiful than what AI has turned you into as an anime person. So I think that's going to be an ethical quandary for all of our kids.
Mahalo. Other questions?
I think more on the technical side, like what Rennie was talking about, enter the text in and then it can decipher it, or how Ben had his minutes ready. How do you introduce it to your AI so that it can then do the work that you want it to do? I guess Ben can put it up on the screen maybe and show us how you do that.
Yeah, how I did that transcript into minutes.
Yeah, how do you introduce documents or texts
Yeah.
or whatever into your AI so you can then work with it?
Sure. So I'll go through that again. So on my computer here, I'll share my screen. I'll share my whole desktop so you can kind of see what's happening here. I'll share the desktop. All right, so over here I have these are the different resources that I was planning on using potentially for tonight. And so right here, you can see this was I recorded the meeting on my phone, again, with the permission of everybody. My phone can use AI to listen to it and then create a transcript. So that nobody typed this out. This is the verbatim of our meeting. Okay. That's not what we want in minutes. What we want is something that's more aligned. This was our agenda. I want those minutes, those words, that verbatim, summarized and placed into this order. Okay, because these are the things we talked about. So I'm going to take those two documents and I'm just dragging them into, for me, I just drag them into ChatGPT. The other way, you can do this little plus button down here and add a file if that is how you use your workflow. And then I'm going to go do the transcript. Maybe not. There we go. So I added, here are my two files that I've created. I have the transcript. I have the agenda. And I'm going to say, use the transcript to create a set of minutes following the outline of the agenda. Okay. It's got to look at the documents I've uploaded and has me as the chairperson. I'm not the chairperson. It's assumed that, right? I don't think anything in the said that, so I'd have to correct that. The meeting was called to order by Pastor Ben. It wasn't. It was called by our moderator. So I'd have, there's some things that it's assuming because it knows who I am and it knows that I'm doing this. So it assumes I'm the one in charge. But that's not always the case. And then it just kind of puts that all together. Now I can go ahead and copy this however I want. I can press this little button, copy, and then I can open up Google Drive. And I'm going to create a new document, or Word or Pages or whatever you use. I'm going to paste it in, and there I have my minutes that I can then share these. I'm going to go ahead and share them with whoever, right? I'm going to share them with Jonathan because he's always interested in what's going on here on Lanai, right? Or I can send it with whoever. So right there, within a couple minutes of not real in-depth work, I have that information pulled together.
Other questions? Ben, Rennie, Irene.
Yes, Lauren, I'm recording with voice memos. I'm not sure what, I use an iPhone. I'm not sure what version of iOS or what version of a phone you need to have to do that. But if you pull up voice memos, here, I'll show you what it looks like on my Mac. Maybe, there it is. But it's similar on the phone. Here, I'm going to go back. Let's see if I can find it. I have a lot of voice memos in here. November 4th. And then I could listen to that meeting. So I could go back and listen and say, what was that about again? But then up here, there's this little quote box. And there's our transcript, the verbatim. And then I just copied this into a new document.
Okay, mind blown.
We have another question in the chat about cost of different products.
So yes and no. Some of them are free. So sometimes the free versions will limit your access to the newest and the latest and greatest versions or models. But others, I think Irene said she uses the free version of ChatGPT. I pay for it. If you are a nonprofit, I would recommend getting onto the Google for nonprofits, and then you get to use Google Gemini, another product. You can use that for free as a congregation and the users in that group. I'm not sure about Rennie's services if they have a cost.
They average between $10 to $20, but some of them now are combining their programs. So something called u.com, you.com. It has everything in there for $10 a month. So you have ChatGPT, Perplexity, some of the ones that I think some of you were mentioning, it's all in there, but they all have limitations. There's different ways that they have to make money somehow. But it's sometimes some of them are really good if you want to compare the different ways that it researches something or prompts something. And then I may go back to my regular paid version of it and then really expound on that more.
So panelists, do you find that AI fosters your creativity? Makes you more creative?
I find that it can be the spark I need to get creative. And that's really how I try to use it, to kind of like get, sometimes it's like when you're riding a bike and you have to get the momentum going. It helps for me, it helps getting that momentum going so that I can get into the zone where I'm really doing that work. And then really having it as a back and forth.
Okay, last call for questions in the chat, or unmute, please.
So you're saying that sometimes it comes up with its own imaginary references and source documents. So if you ask it a question about it, like, is this real, or where can I find something, will it continue to lie to you since it's its own imagination?
I found if I catch it, I'm like, that's not right. They'll say, "Oh, of course, I made a mistake. You're right. That is not right." If it comes up with that 3 + 3 is 7, I'm like, that's not. I mean, it wouldn't come up with that, but I say that's not a real book. They're just like, "Oh, you're right. That isn't a real book." So it's not going to double down on it. But again, it should not be the first or last stop, right? You're always kind of, as Irene said, you're right. Got to put on your big kid brain. And do your due diligence on this, but it does kind of point you in a direction, and you say, and a lot of times it's like, okay, yeah, those are the books, but sometimes you're like, wait, this one, like the Sun-Times article, doesn't exist, right? That journalist had it as the last stop, and his editors didn't check his work, right? He just put out this thing. He said, "Give me 10 books," and didn't do any work with it, and so he got caught. So that's where it's like, if it's not, for me, it's not doing the work for you, but with you.
And like I said, AI is only going to get more efficient. I've caught it and told it, "Hey, you did it wrong." It's like, "Oh, sorry." I asked it to calculate how much my mortgage would be if the annual percentage rate went down to X, and it calculated it wrong. Because I double checked it, and so I told it was wrong. But I don't think in 2 to 5 years it would do that. Like simple math, I don't think it would do it wrong.
And when you play with the different AIs and LLMs and things like that, you'll figure out, like, there are things that it does really well and things that it doesn't, at least in its current forms, right? And just kind of, you have to be aware of that. There's an article I just wanted to share with you as a resource. I'll put it in the chat. It's this guy, Ethan Mollick. He does a lot of thinking about AI and its use. So he's got an interesting blog, but it's 15 times to use AI and 5 not to. So I'd commend that to you for your reading and just thinking as well.
Spell his name, please.
I'm sorry?
Spell his last name.
Yeah. Mollick.
As a departing word of wisdom, ministry aside, for anyone that has children or grandchildren, I want to reemphasize strongly as a mother to really pay attention to AI, even if you don't use it in ministry. If you're like, that's beyond me, I'm good. Watch your kids and grandkids, because they are going to use it, and they may not know how to use it appropriately, and they may be doing things that are really bad for them. AI doesn't have to be bad, right? I use it to figure out what plants are in my backyard with my daughter. It's really fun. But yeah, just please watch your children and be aware of what AI can do.
Friends, let us thank our panelists. And Kahu Heather, could you wrap us up for the evening?
Sure. I was just thinking, if I knew anything about AI, I would have asked it to create a closing prayer for me and shared that with you all. But I don't, so you get me. So again, I just want to thank you all for being here this evening. This is a great turnout. And again, this is like the tip of the iceberg stuff. There's no way we could dive deep into this subject matter. So who knows, maybe there'll be some follow-up sessions in the future, or maybe more specified sessions. We'll have to figure that out. But I definitely want to thank Jonathan again for kind of organizing this evening. Ben, Rennie, Irene, and Julie, I'm not sure if you're on here because you have to be because you're running Zoom or not, but good to see you. And thank you for sending out the link today to all of us. And again, just I know that we are all so busy, and I know this it has been an hour and a half almost of our time this evening. So thank you for choosing to spend it with us. And for the supporting the work of innovation and engagement through such sessions like this. It's good to see so many. I see a lot of new faces, actually. I see a lot of faces that I'm not familiar with. So this is wonderful. And a good use of Zoom this evening to be able to see some familiar faces and also see some new faces. And hopefully we'll all get to see each other in person on Kauai next month for the AHA. I look forward to seeing you there. And I hope it's safe to share, but a lot of what we're going to be doing at the AHA has to deal with the subject matter of innovation and engagement. So I'm looking forward to that time together as well, which is awfully ironic because this is going to be the most low-tech, low-key kind of environment we're walking into. Not exactly what you think of when you think of innovation and engagement, but it's going to be great. So, and thank you to our Kauai Association friends on here. I know you guys are in the depths of planning and preparing for us, but let me just close this out with a quick prayer as we depart our ways this evening. And again, mahalo for your time. E pule kako. Keakua, thank you for each person that shared this evening, for the wisdom that they have, and for this space together that was created so that we could begin to learn about AI and the possible uses and possible platforms that exist, knowing that we really can't cover it all. And so this is just a brain tease, if you will, to get us thinking. And you know, we want to always remember that you created us, oh God, you created us to be free thinkers, to be wise. And so as we kind of play around with AI and delve into it deeper, and some of us use it extensively, may we always remember that we were created to think and to create. And so may we use it in ways that are healthy, that are in line with our boundaries and our ethics. And may we use it to spur our creative sides. So be with us as we play with it, as we treat it as kind of like an experimental project, something that we just kind of tinker with and become more familiar with. But we are not a people who are going to live in fear, oh God. And so we do not fear AI, but we have to learn more about it. And so thank you for this time in which we were presented multiple options in ways that we can be creative and use it not only in ministry, but in our everyday lives. And so, Lord, we thank you. Be with us as we part ways and as we say, a hui ho. In your holy name we pray. Amen.